Welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. It's the Turntable and the Johnny Britt Show. Today on the Turntable is the world-renowned saxophonist Najee. Just keep working it out. Welcome to the Turntable. This is your host, Johnny Britt. Today's guest is no stranger to contemporary jazz. His name is Najee. Najee came on the scene in 1986 with his debut release entitled Najee's Theme on EMI Capitol Records. That album earned Najee a Grammy Award nomination for Best Album of the Year. Najee's follow-up album, which came out in 1988, was entitled Day by Day, and that album went platinum. We're talking about 1 million copies sold. It is my pleasure to have on the show today, Najee. Well, I told you guys that I have my very special guest and very dear friend, Mr. Najee. Najee, man, thank you so much for being on the Turntable today, my brother.
Truly my pleasure, Johnny. Good to see you, brother. Yes, sir.
Man, this is just a long time coming. I've been a fan of yours for years. And
well, I'm honored, man, because I was a fan of yours ever since I met you. I think first time I met you was in Cabo, Mexico, I believe, many years ago.
That's right.
Yep, you guys were performing there on behalf of Hidden Beach, and so I've been a fan ever since then.
Oh man, well, thank you so much. I've been so looking forward to this interview, and I just want to. There's so much stuff I want to talk to you about, but I just want to get right into it. And I just want to talk to you about, man, you're just such a great artist. And I just want to know, where did it start for you? I believe you're from Queens, New York. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to ask you about that. And
born and raised.
Yeah. And I want to ask you a crazy question while you're answering that. Sure. Is Najee your birth name?
It's my real name. Yes. It's my middle name.
That's wonderful. I really love that name.
Yeah.
So anyway, so tell us.
I won't tell you my first name. It's not as my first name is I won't tell you that because it don't sound as sexy. So
Najee is such I don't know of anyone by the name of Najee. And it's such a powerful, great name. Does it have Does it have a meaning?
It has a meaning. I didn't really start using it until I was in college I'll tell you the year, 1979, 1980. I just started using the middle name instead of my first. And then when I got signed to my first record deal, they didn't like my last name too much. So they, it was during the time when everybody was using one names, Kashif, Sade, even Kenny G had to drop his last name and just go with Kenny G. So I was kind of in that line of one name artist, Yeah. And, Luther Vandross dropped the Vandross and became Luther, Anita dropped Baker, became Anita,
Yeah.
So that's pretty much when it started.
We're gonna go there, but I just want to go back to the very beginning.
Sure.
With you back in Jamaica, Queens. Tell us what that was like growing up, and how'd you get started?
Well, it started for me in elementary school with the saxophone. A saxophone player came to our school and performed. I always loved the sound of the instrument. When I got into junior high school, I began playing clarinet and then picked up the saxophone, and then in high school, I went to a school called August Martin High School in Queens, in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Now, Jamaica, Queens back then was a great neighborhood for young musicians who were coming up because when I was growing up, there was, Marcus Miller, myself, we all grew up together, Tom Brown, we were from that same community, Bernard Wright, Donald Blackman. It was just so many great musicians. And I was just part of that community. My brother Fareed played guitar. And it started actually in the local bands, the local funk R&B bands. I mean, if you weren't in a gang back then or a basketball team, your activity was music. Yeah. And but it was in high school that I went to a school called August Martin High School, which was an aviation school. I went there to become a pilot. And alongside Russell Simmons, the now legendary rap mogul Russell Simmons, until he got kicked out of school one day for punching a teacher in the face. But it ended up that in high school, after school, I would rehearse with this band. And then at the age of 16, I started making money playing in clubs with these older guys. It evolved into a few recording sessions back then with different people and mainly on flute. And it seemed like out of all the people in the neighborhood, people would call me to do flute solos. And then at the age of 18, I went on tour with a band called Area Code, and we backed up Miss Black America. And we toured all over the world. We were, well, mostly all over the world, Europe, mostly Western Europe and Central America, here in the United States and other places around, the Mediterranean. And from there, I decided that, with that particular band, I didn't see a future doing it or being able to make money at it. So I came home one day and my mother said to both my brother and I, listen, you guys are either going to get a job, you're going to go to school, or you're going to get out. She wasn't allowing us to stay home anymore. Yeah. And that's pretty much how it all started,
Wow. Well, let me know about your jazz background, because you are a fantastic jazz player. I think I told you before, we do contemporary jazz, smooth jazz.
You're very kind.
There's only a few cats that really can get in there, and you are certainly one of those cats. So being in New York in that environment, did you study with anybody? I mean, how did you hook that up?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was in high school, even though the school was an aviation high school, we had a very strong music department under our music teacher, Mr. David Vetter, and Mrs. Rosemary Costanza. And one day, Frank Foster, along with Billy Taylor, came to our school to recruit the music students in different schools. We weren't the only one, but they came to our school to recruit some of the young students who were interested in jazz to join the Jazzmobile program, which at that time was a federally funded program by the U.S. government to promote music education. And so I got to study with the legendary Jimmy Heath. I took his flute masterclass. I got to study with Frank Foster and Frank West. Billy Taylor was over the whole department. My brother studied with the legendary Ted Dunbar on guitar. And there was just a group of us that came through that system for $5 a year. We got to study with these great masters. So that really began my journey in jazz, because they were so hard on us. They were like, yeah, y'all playing all that funk stuff, but if you really want to work in the music industry, you have to be able to read charts. You got to be able to play through changes. And so they put a lot of pressure on us, And one of the legendary people that came out of that program was the late Jerry Allen, pianist. She was there as well during the same time. We were all there together. So, and, New York was just a fertile environment for music. It was highly competitive. Everybody had a band. We had the battle of the bands, and the community was just very strong in that way. So every Saturday, I would go up to Harlem on 127th Street to PS 127, and that's where we would study with those great men when they weren't on the road.
Wow, that's amazing. Speaking of studying, so did you go to college? What was your formal education like?
Well, when I came off the road with Miss Black America, as I told you, I got an offer to play with the legendary Benny King. And, Stan, I mean, you remember him.
Yeah,
and so I went on the road with him for a short time. And, I realized that was not going to work because there was no money in touring with him. All respect to him. And again, I told you, my mother gave us an ultimatum to go to school to get a job. So we decided to go to school, and I ended up going to Bronx Community College, which was the strongest music department in the City College area of New York, City University. And I had the pleasure of studying under the tutelage of Valerie Capers, who was head of the department, the jazz department.
Yeah.
And I after that, there was 3 or 4 of us that were in that department that decided to go audition to New England Conservatory, because the late Ernie Wilkins was head of the jazz department, and he was inviting people to come up and audition. And so we went, and we auditioned and got into school, a classical school, and then studied there for about 3.5 years until I couldn't afford to go anymore.
Well, it's sure.
Yes, sir.
I can hear it in your playing. I mean, you just have such control and depth in your playing. Let's fast forward to your record deal, your big break. How did you, before you became a big star? So tell me about that.
The big star. I don't know about being a big star.
Well, you got signed to Orpheus Records.
Well, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well,
So
actually, what happened was I had, yeah, I was doing like disco records and rap records. I was playing on records like that in the New York City area. Back in the early 80s, there wasn't a lot of work for just a saxophone player.
yeah.
So, but my brother, who was doing a lot of session work back in the day, he was playing on records with groups like Change and Kashif and, Melba Moore and all these sessions back then. And every time there would be an opening for a sax player, he'd always say, man, you need to get my brother. He's a bad sax player. So anyway, I was living in Boston at the time, going to school. Well, had just quit school and started making frequent trips to New York to do sessions, and then eventually moved back. And when I got back to New York, within 3 days, I would happen to be sitting in a club playing straight ahead music. And in came Shaka Khan's musical director and heard me playing and said, listen, called me up the next day and asked me to join Shaka's band.
Mm.
And that was on the Ain't Nobody tour. Both my brother and I ended up touring with her for about a year.
Yeah.
And then I met Melissa Morgan, who signed to Capitol Records at the time through Orpheus Productions. And they heard me playing saxophone on her record. And Charles Huggins, who was head of the company, invited me to bring him demos, and the rest was history.
Wow.
He called me up like a few weeks later and said that he had a deal for me on Capitol EMI Records. And that's how it all started.
Just like that. So tell me, I know a little
just like
bit.
that.
I've heard stories about Charles Huggins and the Orpheus thing. It was a little bit like I just interviewed Howard Hewitt, and he was telling me about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Listen to this. Howard was telling me about the Motown runaround.
Right. Yeah.
So, I asked him, was there like, because he was on Solar Records. I was like, was there like a Solar runaround? And we start laughing. So my question to you is, was there an Orpheus runaround with Charles Huggins and that crew?
Absolutely. I mean, I hate to say it, when I say anything, it's not with any regret of ever working with them. It's always in the spirit of being grateful for the opportunity they gave me. I've since that time have contributed that experience to charging to the game, as we say. It was the cost for me to get into the game and do what I did. But if I had to say they owe me a lot of money, as well as many other artists, I would definitely say that, yes.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from them, and they gave me an opportunity that I think couldn't have come any other way, and but yeah, there are a lot of runaround stories. I won't get too much into that,
I kind of like to ask that question. Tell me about some of your saxophone influences. I think like coming up, it seems like there was Grover Washington, Stanley Turntable,
Sure.
And to me, like your name comes because I think you guys all kind of like crossed over, as African American saxophone players early in the day. Am I missing anybody? And who were your influences?
Oh, well, there were several. As a young boy, I used to love, there was an album Miles recorded called 4 or More Live.
Oh, yeah.
I think you might remember that record, which featured George Coleman on tenor saxophone.
Oh, yeah.
And my mother, she loved the sound of saxophone and trumpet and jazz. So I grew up hearing, George Coleman, Joe Henderson. And then later, she liked King Curtis and Junior Walker, people like that.
Yeah.
And then later when I got into high school, it was my high school teacher that exposed me to Grover Washington Jr. on his first album. And I fell in love with Grover's sound right away because he was one of those cats who had the sound. He could funk, but he could swing too, So I just always loved his approach. Mm-hmm. But there were others. There was Stanley, and then in the more traditional realm, there was Train, and on alto was Bird for a while. And then I just went through different phases of trying to be like that person, and, could never be them. So here I am just being Najee.
It really did work. And all that was like a big gumbo to the sound that Najee has. I mean, you really have a distinctive sound. And I know it, the moment that I hear you. I want to ask you, like, how many awards have you won, like Grammys or, I see all those gold and platinum records in your stuff.
Yeah, well, those are yeah, some of those are actually the records gold and platinum. Two of them are platinum, two gold.
Wow.
So the first two, Najee's Theme and Day by Day, you know, of course, we didn't expect all that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I've been nominated for a couple of Grammys. I think I only have one here, but for a couple of things. And I think I'm up. Somebody told me that I'm up for consideration. And you are too, I believe.
Yeah, I am up for
consideration this year for one thing, for Alfie, I think it is. That they,
well, congratulations.
And, thank you. You too, my friend. So, you know, but you know, I mean, I don't know how you do it, but for me, I don't do things for those reasons. But I've been fortunate to win Soul Train Music Award a few times, two times in a row. Been nominated 3. Been nominated 3 times for NAACP, won it once. And a whole bunch of other things throughout the years, you know.
Wow, well, that's amazing. Well, I'll tell you, I'm really honored to be in the category with you for the Grammys. I hope we both get nominated.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, it will be nice, right?
I did vote for you, by the way.
Oh, I voted for you too, man. That's good.
And you know that we are also both up for the Soul Tracks Music Choice Awards. Both of us.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were both
nominated for that. Yeah. So, man, that's really fantastic. You know, I want to ask you, Najee, so do you write your material, and who was your producer back on those early Orpheus record days, those hits? Who did you have?
Cool. Well, my brother was producer on some of my biggest stuff, Tokyo Blue. But the first things I did on the first album, Najee's Theme, was a producer named Ronnie Song, who was originally from Connecticut. He wrote a lot of stuff on that record. Alex Bouillon did one song with me, Gina. There was Barry Eastman. He produced a couple of things. Wayne Brathwaite. You know, back then everything was produced. And then my brother and I built our first studio, I think, on our 3rd album.
Wow.
And we started writing a lot of stuff ourselves. So, you know, I've never been committed as a writer, you know. You know, some of the things I've written, you know, have lasted, but you know, I've never been a committed writer that way, you know.
It's kind of like being committed to the horn. I mean, you know, the horn is unforgiving. You know, we have to practice our horns in order for it to really speak to us. And speaking of speak, man, I just love your new single, Speak Love, man.
Speak Love. Oh, thank you.
What a great song. Tell us about that. Who produced that record?
That was Greg Manning, actually.
Wow.
That was a song he wrote. And, you know, you always got to write. Now in today's times, you want to get the most streaming you can. So, you know, you just collaborate with people who are in that genre and do it well, you know. And he's definitely one of them, you know.
Well, I'm going to be one of them too, brother, because I'm working on some music for you, Najee. You will definitely be hearing from me.
Good. Please. I'm ready. I'm ready, man. About time.
No, I just
make it funky.
It's gonna be funky. It's gonna be funky. It's gonna be fun. But you know, I was so blessed and honored to have you on my song "Hot Fun in the Summer." I mean, you're such a cool cat. I mean, I just called and you just said, "Johnny, what do you need?" Yes. And you know, you're just really, really, really cool. And I must tell you, when you sent me back those saxophones, it just blew me away. I mean, you are really a bad dude on the horn, man.
Really? Oh wow, man.
Yeah, and that really was like my biggest song as a contemporary jazz artist. You know, Watercolors picked it up, and you know, I just really want to thank you so much, bro.
Yes.
You know.
My pleasure, man. I had a lot of fun with that one. That was it take me back to the old days, you know.
Yeah.
You know, hot fun in the summertime, brother.
Hot fun in the summertime. Yes, a lot of people love that song. It's crazy. I'm gonna tell you this. You know, I've been in the business. Impromptu, we broke out in 1995 on Motown Mojazz Records. And, you know, all those records were like, I'm a singer. So they were really singing records, and I played some horn on it. But like now, like with Hot Fun in the Summer, the song you played on, you know, some people think I'm a new artist. You know, they think.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, that's good, man. You know.
that just came on the smooth jazz, contemporary jazz
The
scene.
invention, you know.
Yeah, it's so funny, because I've written a lot of hit
Yeah, well,
songs.
I love that. I love that album you did, Marvin and Miles. That was a great record, you
Thank
know.
you. Yeah, Marvin Me
So,
Miles. Yeah, I really had a lot of fun.
yes, that's it.
Yeah, had a lot of fun doing that. And my new album is called Mo Jazz, and I got to get that to you. And we've hit with Mo Jazz, and it's
Okay,
featured Norman Brown. So I had my first #1 media based
nice.
record that on this record for a couple weeks, and I'm so happy about that. So
Congratulations, bro.
getting in
Yeah.
there. Thank you, Najee. I just noticed that you're just you really help out young cats, and you're just such a cool cat, and I'm really not surprised because all these cats in New York helped you, and I can just tell that you just spread the love to us. And I remember talking to you, and you invited me to come open up for you in Las Vegas. And when you did, you invited another young saxophone player from Cleveland, Riley Richards, the same.
Riley Richards, yes.
Yeah, and you're just so cool. I don't know if you really see that much of cats that are established, taking the phone calls and reaching back and helping cats that are really trying to do it, and you are one of them, and I really want to applaud you for that, brother.
Oh, bro, you know what, man? I have fun. It brings me. I just have fun doing it. I mean, it's I enjoy. It really brings me joy to watch and just see it happen. Especially people like yourself and like Riley, who, work hard in the game, and all it takes is the people hearing you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just hearing you, and that's it. So, and for me, that's how it was for me. I mean, when my brother and I were young, Roy Ayers would allow us to just come and kick it with him. I mean, we were young kids, and he would just tell us that he don't even remember this stuff, because we asked him and said, "Roy, you don't remember, man? We used to come in the studio, and you would just talk to us," and he's like, "Nah, man, I don't remember." I'm like, but for us, that was a life altering experience, man. Because he was huge back then, and he didn't mind just sharing the knowledge, man, and just taking the time to just talk to us about how he played the game. Back then, he was one of the first guys we heard where he would take recording budget and he would spread it across 2 albums, or he would get somebody like William Allen and allow them to come and do their own project, or I can't think of the brother's name, Edwin Birdsong. Edwin Birdsong would come in and do some things. He was one of the few cats I knew who could do that, take a record budget from Polygram and spread it around that way. So that always stuck with me.
Wow.
And,
well, man, I could just tell, you're just so mature, and you're just so seasoned. And I think by these things that we're talking about, it just shows. It shows that your security in yourself as being Najee, and as a saxophone player, and as an entrepreneur in this business. And I just want to ask you just a couple more questions before I let you go. And I always like to ask this of my guests.
Sure.
What type of advice can you give our listeners, some of those that are aspire to get into the business?
I say, we're actually in interesting times, both challenging, but also at the same time, it's a great opportunistic time, because there's no mystery to the promotions anymore. Back in the day when I was coming up, I came up through the system, the record system, and you needed budgets to record records, you needed budgets to market, to have the record company market. They had to hire high publicity people. I was fortunate. I got on all the major TV shows back then, which TV is a powerful media to promote. But if I had to do it in today's time, spend that kind of money, it would never have happened. There would have been no Najee.
Right.
So I'd say to artists, the first thing they got to do is find something that is truly them, that they enjoy sharing with the world, because everybody's heard Najee. They've heard Kenny G. They've heard, all these other people. What people respond to, I think, is something fresh, something new, and something that's true to the artist. You know what I mean? You don't have to be the best singer, the best player. Just be true to what it is you do, and people will respond. I really believe that. And then once you have that, there's a saying a friend of mine said to me one time. He said, "To envy is ignorance, and imitation is suicide." So, that says it all. Find something unique.
Najee, that is great advice, and I really want to thank you for that. And we're going to leave it at that. But do you want to share some of your socials with our listeners, and what's new for Najee on the horizon?
Yeah, well, it's very simple. Facebook is Najee Official. Twitter is @Najee Official, and my website is najeeofficial.com. So that's pretty much it. And then my personal Facebook page is Najee Saxophone Flautist. So, and really what's on the schedule right now is just being home. We had a full year, in different parts of the world, and now we're just waiting to see what happens in 2021. Hopefully with a new presidential election, there's some good promise ahead for the economy to turn around. But I got to say, even though this has not been the greatest for our business, it's been a good reset for me personally, because I have not been off the road in 37 years. So this has been good.
You told me that, and it really blew me away. I just interviewed Otis Williams. I was the musical director for the Temptations, and that's what brought me to Los Angeles.
With the Temptations, yes.
Yeah, I was their youngest ever musical director, and
Nice.
I interviewed him on the Turntable on this show, and he told me the same thing. John, he's like, I've been on the road ever since I was 17 or 18 years old with the Temps. And so people like you and little Anthony, it's like, man, I just bow down to you guys, because you guys are just. But brother Najee.
Oh no, man, we.
But man, look, thank you so much for being on the Turntable today, my friend. You are
good to see you, Johnny. As always.
You're gonna be hearing from me with a funky track for you to do your thing on. And
I can't wait, man. Come on, man. Lay it on me, brother. I need it. I can use it. I need some inspiration, You
got it. Najee, thank you so much for being on the Turntable today,
Absolutely,
brother. Bro. You're such a cool cat. Peace and love.
Thank you, sir.